Unshelling Medicine podcast. Healthcare in the language we understand.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. Today we have the beautiful Bianca Thomas. Bianca is a cognitive behavioral therapist, and she's also one of the directors for Evolved Therapies, Evolved Ventures, right? Got that right. I tried a few times.
Evolved Ventures, yes.
Got it. So we're going to learn today what Bianca does, which is behavioral therapy. How does it affect us individually, in our private lives, in business, in our work lives? And they're going to be things that you learn. So thank you for being here and happy learning. So welcome, everybody. Welcome, Bianca.
I'm super grateful to be here. This is going to be a great episode.
Absolutely. I'm grateful you're here too. So, Bianca, I mean, out of everything in the world, you decided to study human behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And not only study that, but be a therapist in a way that really makes an impact in having people understand and change their behavior. What interested you in behavioral therapy?
I think how much of a mess I was in my life, it made me want to figure out why and why I was doing the things I was doing, and then eventually why all people do the things that they do. My journey is a very, very interesting one, and most people wouldn't think I've experienced some of the things that I've experienced, when they see me. But I grew up in a very, very Middle Eastern household, and I was the very Middle Eastern culture.
Right.
And I was the first daughter. So a lot of expectations put on me about who I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to do, the way that we're supposed to present ourselves, the image that we're supposed to portray. And from a really young age, I rebelled against it. I didn't have the same beliefs that my family had. I didn't believe in the things that they believed in. And I rebelled against it so much so that when I was 16, I stayed in an abusive relationship for 4 years where I was being mentally, emotionally, and sexually abused, and nobody knew, but I stayed in it just because I didn't want my parents to be right, because I didn't want to have to go and tell them, yeah, you guys were right. I probably shouldn't have done that. And I eventually got out of it. Thankfully, I was able to leave and not too much harm was done, but I was a broken shell of a human being. Like outwardly, I looked really confident, right? Like nobody knew I was struggling. Nobody knew I had some of the issues I was going through. Nobody knew what happened in that relationship, but I was a broken human trying to figure myself out and trying to figure out like who I'm supposed to be, because my entire life up until that point was just spent rebelling against my family, not actually creating an identity, not actually creating anything real in here. So time goes on, trying to figure it out. I eventually meet mentors of mine, and they're teaching me about personal development and growth. And it's like, oh my God, this is what I've been looking for. This is the thing that's always been missing. I eventually meet my business partner. We have this running joke that we met when she was punching me in the face because we did Muay Thai together. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's like MMA kind of. So we met doing that. We instantly connected, and then we started a podcast and a business together. And I'm like, oh my God, this is it. This is my chance to like get out of this and to really build something within me. So we're building the business. I eventually am able to move out of my family home. My family isn't terrible people. We clashed so much. We just had such different beliefs about the world and what we were supposed to be. And so we're building this business, and I'm trying to make sure that I don't go back, and I'm not trying to be around negative influences. And we're doing all of these things, and all of the low self-worth, all of the no confidence, all of the work that I hadn't done for myself. We're trying to build this business. I'm given the title of COO. We're doing all of these amazing things, and it all comes and hits me. And we decided that I shouldn't be COO anymore because all of the pretending that I was doing, the external confidence, finally caught up when I couldn't do the things I was telling my business partner I could do. Because I'm just trying to win her approval more than I'm actually trying to be this person. And it was in this moment that I'm like, I'm so naive. I look confident, but I'm actually not. I've been in multiple abusive and harmful relationships, pretending that I'm great, pretending that I'm so much more capable than I actually am. And I'm really struggling. And it caught up. And my business partner is amazing. And she's like, you have a choice here. You can either take a step back, go figure all of this stuff out. And in a few years, we'll come back and we'll see if you're still the right person for this. You know, the person that I see inside of you. We'll see if you're still that person. Or we walk away and we'll call it quits right now. We'll liquidate the company. I'll go start my own thing and I'll still love you, but I'm going to love you from afar. And it was in that moment that I'm like, this is my chance to actually build all of this stuff that's in here that I know is in here. This is my chance. I can actually become this person that I've been pretending to myself, let alone everybody else that I am, and build that inner scaffolding that never got built from a super young age in that really destructive culture that I grew up in. And so it's like, okay, so I'm doing coaching, I'm in therapy, I'm working on myself, I'm healing all of the demons that I had never talked about, that I had never processed through, that I didn't want anybody knowing because I wanted everyone to see what you see here, which is someone who looks confident, someone who looks like she knows what she's doing. And so I actually had to go back and build it. And I did. And it was so hard. I mean, it was the hardest time of my life, like having to really face my deepest fears, which is I'm not that great. I'm really not good enough. I'm not competent. I am alone. But building from there. And, you know, through all of that, I was able to become a cognitive behavioral therapist. I'm a speaker now. I speak all over the place. We have the podcast that we do. And I get to teach people how to do what I did, which is go from pretending to be these things to actually being these things, actually building self-belief, actually building a strong foundation that so many of us are missing because we're trying to be this thing and look like this thing more than we're actually trying to cultivate it deep down inside. And CBT was one of the first times that I was ever like, oh, this is why we do this. This is why, because our mind is doing this and our past experiences are showing us this and all of these experiences are happening. Oh, it makes sense. So I did that for me, and now I get to help people all over the world do that. So that's really where it came from for me and why I was so fascinated with it, because I needed to learn it for myself. And now I get to help other people do it. So it's really cool.
Yeah, that is cool. That is really, really cool. And you know, most people, unfortunately, have to experience life at its roughest. You know, when we talk about that rock bottom, most empathetic people and healers come from that rock bottom, right?
Yeah.
It's just the way this life thing is set up. And, you know, kudos to you for not letting your ego lead when somebody actually talk to you to like, okay, girlie, I love you. However, you've got to do the work. So kudos to you on that part. And I want you to please talk about how much humility. And when I talk about humility, people think about basically being a doormat or a rug or cap, whatever. Humility is not that. Humility is strength. I want you to talk about, please, the humility it took for you to see the perspective of your business partner and recognizing that you needed to do that work.
I had and still have so much respect for her. You know, one of the things that really gravitated me to her was, you ever meet someone and you look at them and you're just like, ooh, they're different. And you can't put your finger on why, but it's like you know, it's like this deep inner knowing of like, there is something special about this person. I don't know what it is, but they have something. That's what it was when I met her. And what I eventually learned was I've never met someone who worked harder on themselves and on being a better human being holistically than her. I mean, she's the literal definition of a genius. Like, if anyone were to ever meet her, if you listen to the podcast ever, it's like, it's so evident. It's like, ooh, this girl's not normal. And so I had so much respect for her, and she helped me change my life. I mean, she was and still is one of the closest friends that I have. She guided me through so much. And when she told me what she did, I wasn't angry because I knew it was true. I knew it was true. I knew that I was pretending to be something because I was so afraid of the truth, which was that I had no idea anything. I didn't know how business worked. I didn't know how the world worked. I was deeply naive. I was getting used and abused left and right, thinking people had pure intentions. And that caused so much chaos in my life. And so when she came to me and was like, B, I love you so much, but I can't do this with you. We can't keep doing this. You're not ready. And I know you want to be ready and I want you to be ready, but you're not ready yet. But you can get there and I'll help you. And I know you have mentors that you're working with and coaches. We'll all help you. We'll help you get there. I want you here, but I can't have you here if this is how this is going to keep going. And I knew that my life would be worse without all of this than with it. And so I had to have humility in that moment because I wanted my future more than I wanted the lie I was telling myself. And I think that's true humility. It's being able to look at the limiting beliefs and the lies and the stories that you've been telling yourself about yourself and be willing to tell yourself the truth and look at the truth. And that's what I do with my clients on a daily basis. I mean, I tell my clients all the time, if there's not a session, if we don't get to a point in therapy where you're like, I'm sick of looking at your face, I don't want to talk to you, we're not doing good therapy, because it's supposed to challenge you. It's supposed to bring up the things that you're afraid of and afraid to talk about and face the parts of you that you've been running away from or that you've been hiding from. And that's what I did. And I was willing to do it because I knew how bad my life would be if I didn't. I remember what it was like growing up. If you saw me back then, you would have think I had it made. I mean, my family was not rich, but my parents worked extremely hard for everything that they had. And my mom loved fashion. And so we looked like the Kardashians. Like, we looked like we had it made and we looked like we had it all. And my culture is very image and appearance centered. And so we looked wealthy and rich and well developed. And the truth was we weren't. Externally, it looked great, but behind the scenes, it was terrible. And I remembered what it was like to be like that, to be crying myself to sleep at night, telling myself I hated myself and the world would be better off without me. And there's so many people going through that same thing. I mean, I talk to people behind the scenes and I hear the truth of what their experiences are, and everybody is putting up a facade. More people than you would think. Everyone is trying to be something that they don't think that they are. And it's not out of malice. I think that's one of the most interesting things that I've learned. The lies and the stories that we tell other people, it's because we're trying to convince them to ourselves. And so it's not out of malice. And that's really what it was for me, and what made me realize that I needed this and that I would do anything for it. And I would be willing to sacrifice everything for it because it was better than the alternative. The alternative was way worse.
So I want to call bravery here because I come from Nigeria and the African culture mirrors your culture.
They're very similar.
Right.
Very
So
similar.
our, focus on presenting well, appearance, respect, not shaming your family, education.
Yeah.
And all of those things causes people to suffer in silence. And when you speak up, you do have the criticism of either being called a black sheep or you're shaming your parents and they work so hard and all of this extra stuff, right? And for you to not only speak on your own pain, but also use it for others to heal is such a brave thing to do. So, in speaking, the people across cultures that are listening to us right now, right? And they may share similarities with everything I mentioned, from respect to being afraid to speak up because you're afraid to shame your family and all of that stuff. What can you say to somebody listening to us that, has that facade that everything's
Yeah.
perfect? Your family's well known and respected. How dare you? We don't believe it. What can you say to that person listening to us, Bianca?
You would be blown away at the amount of people from my culture and other cultures who have reached out to me over the last 7 years since we started this business saying, I could never say these things out loud, but I'm so glad you're talking about how toxic all of this is and how bad it really is. Thank you for actually talking about the truth. The cultures that so many of us have grown up in, whether you're Middle Eastern or in, Asian communities or in African communities or whatever, right? The wide set of cultures that are out there. I sincerely believe that at the core root of them, they're trying to teach and embody beautiful things, right? Family, community, doing well, appearing well, all of these things. But the core has gotten lost in translation, and a lot of the beliefs and the narratives and the values that have become so much a part of these cultures, they lost the point. It's more about appearing good than it is about actually being good. I mean, I had a relative, this blew me away. I had a relative, I'm very much into fitness and physical health, right? And I had a relative come up to me and say, how did you get the body that you did? And I said, well, I've been working out for 15 years, almost every single day. I go every day and I put in a lot of work. And she was like, well, if I wanted to, grow my lower half of my body, what would I need to do? And I told her. And she looked me in the eye and said, yeah, that takes too much work. I'm just going to go get a BBL.
Nice.
And I was like, what? It blew me away. She goes, yeah, I don't have the patience for that. That would probably take 2 years? And I'm like, yeah, probably. It'd be kind of uncomfortable, but yeah, it's not impossible. It's just takes effort. And she goes,
Right.
no, I'm just going to go get a BBL. And her 16-year-old daughter is sitting across the table from us. And I looked at her daughter in the face and I said, I pray to God you never do that in front of her mother. I said, you better not ever do that because that's the wrong approach. Don't you ever take shortcuts in life to get those things. But that's the culture. It's better to look good because everyone's trying to look good than it is to actually become good. And when that's the narrative that has been passed down, you don't know better.
Yeah.
How is my cousin, my 16-year-old cousin, supposed to know better when her own mother is projecting those messages? A lot of us in these cultures grow up with that, where it's like the idea is more important than the reality. And the thing that really made the difference for me was surrounding myself with people who helped me to see the truth. That's the best thing that I could say. You don't need to shame your culture. I mean, I made so many mistakes in the beginning. Like, I'm grateful for where I ended up because of everything that I did, but I would definitely change the approach I took if I could go back because I made so many mistakes. I did it really wrong. I shamed my culture and I put a big, red X on it, and I wanted nothing to do with it rather than trying to have deeper understanding and, change it from the inside. But I wasn't capable back then. I am now, but I wasn't capable of it back then. And so what I did was I surrounded myself with really amazing people. I mean, my business partner, my mentors, all of these people that I met along the way that helped me to see the truth. Surrounding myself with good people and then being willing to do that inner work and understand my limiting beliefs, my values, the stories I'm telling myself, the behaviors that I've consistently engaged in, the emotional patterns that I keep having and experiencing, getting around other people who could help me to see that and then really make solid change on it. That's what I would say. If you're surrounded by the same people all day, every day, it's almost impossible to get out. Like, the only reason I was able to do the things that I was able to do was because I did get out. For a period of time, I was no contact with my family. We fought a lot, and it wasn't good for me and my mental health, and it wasn't good for them and their mental health. And so we had to take time apart from each other, and I had to look like deep within myself and understand, what role did I have to play in this? How am I showing up? What are the things that I'm doing? And be willing to, number one, ask the question. Number two, be willing to answer it. Back to the humility component. And then number three, the courageous component, which is all three of them combined. Be willing to actually make change.
Yeah. And that is something important. You said a lot of important things all at once. And the no contact thing, and it's very therapeutic. It is very therapeutic.
It can be, for sure.
It is very therapeutic because it's kind of like, it is, I liken it, it is emotional intelligence because EQ tells you if you're trying to have a conversation and it gets a bit toxic or heated, it is okay to step away and come back to that conversation another time, which is a no contact thing. No contact doesn't mean that you hate your family, the person, whoever. It's just there needs to be a healthy space between us right now. I can love you from a distance until we can have this conversation, because you on my neck, I on your neck is not working out. And especially when you're being gaslit, because people do try to heal.
They do.
Try to heal, especially in our culture. There's usually a demand for respect. Respect is earned and not given. So when there is demand for respect as opposed to listening to a person and then gaslighting them, it can drive anybody crazy. So if somebody's actively trying to heal or going through their own healing journey, which is not easy, right? That is why most people don't do it, because you're forced to confront things that you run it up, right? So healing is rough.
I always make the joke to people, like, I'm like semi-serious, but I'm like, honestly, therapy sucks. I don't recommend it. I really don't. Like, it's brutal. I mean, it is not easy having someone. If you're doing good therapy, it's brutal. Having someone sit across from you, whether it's virtually or in person, and tell you the deepest, darkest parts of yourself that you've been running away from, you want to smack that person in the face.
And then,
like, I'm kind of glad I do it. I'm glad I'm virtual with my clients. So I'm like, I would have been hit multiple times.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Like, if that put you in a fetal position crying violently, that nothing is being discussed. Nothing is being talked about. Therapy is hard, and having to heal
it is.
People on that journey with you is even more difficult. What would your recommendation be, especially from a cultural standpoint? And you understand this, right? If somebody's on their healing journey and they would love to bring their family along, or at least have them understand what this journey is like and the benefit of going through this for happier, harmonious time, but they're being gaslit. And again, knowing how annoying that can be. What would be your recommendation for a person, especially where cultural sensitivity and respect is, one of those high values held?
One point that I want to make before I answer that question, I don't want to deter people from doing the work. Like, it's not always in the fetal position, bawling your eyes out, doing like really terrible things. Like, I think a lot of people have that misconception about therapy, and that's why they don't want to do it. It's like there's either the idea that you're just sitting there laying on a couch talking, professing your feelings and nothing happens, or it's on the opposite end of the spectrum where it's like this person is going to make me dive into the depths of hell within myself and I'm not ready to go there. If you're working with a good therapist, they'll meet you where you are, and gradually over time, you'll get to that point. And to answer your question, I think it takes a very similar approach. I mean, again, I did it very wrong. I got into the personal development space. I started learning about mental health, and I tried forcing growth on my family when I didn't even embody it myself. And it's why they told me I was full of it and why we had a lot of the fights that we did, because I wasn't actually becoming what I was teaching and what I was preaching. I basically conceptually knew these things, meaning like I read a textbook and I understood it. And I'm like, hey, this is what we need to do. And you're gaslighting me and you're manipulating me. And they're like, what are you talking about? We've been this way for 20 something years. And now all of a sudden you're going to come up to us and try to change us. Like, go read your book, go over there, like, go settle down. I did it horribly wrong, and I would not recommend anyone do it the way that I did. Again, I learned a lot from it, right? But like, I think that's also the beautiful thing about listening to a show like this. You can learn from the mistakes of somebody else and not have to repeat them. That's why mentors and coaches were so critical for me, and it's why I'm such a huge proponent and advocate of people going and getting good therapy. Good therapy, I said that specifically, because you can learn from somebody who knows more than you and can actually guide you and help you. And so what I would recommend to anybody, you have to embody it within yourself first. It means you got to do the work. You can't expect somebody to change if you're not changing within yourself. And when it comes to the concepts of respect and family values, you can still stay in line with that. It's about learning the emotion regulation tools, meaning like, how do I stay good within me? How do I keep myself okay and stable and regulated? How can I talk to my family in a way that they can understand what I'm trying to say, so that we can all be seen and heard and understood and change together? Not a lot of families are willing to do it. Not a lot of families are going to change. I mean, I've met a lot of people where they got in this journey and they had to just completely cut ties with their family because nothing was ever going to change. I've also seen the complete opposite end of the spectrum where it's like the person started making really amazing changes and their family or their partner saw the improvements and the benefits that that was having, and they eventually jumped on board too. But if I could go back and tell myself something, if I could teach her one thing, and if I could say something to everyone listening to this, it's you gotta do it first. Before you try to change anybody else, before you point the finger at anybody else and say, you're doing this to me and you're doing this and you're doing this, you have to be able to look at yourself first. Because if you don't fully believe it, and if you're not fully embodying it, meaning your beliefs haven't evolved, your values haven't evolved, your behavior hasn't evolved, your feelings haven't evolved, and your emotions and the patterns of all of that, how are you going to change somebody else? How is your family going to meet you where you are when you're not even there yet?
Yeah, absolutely. You can't change anybody. You cannot change anybody. Focus on yourself. It's okay to take a break, because the thing with some families, okay, so Bianca, in your case, you were the oldest, right?
I was the oldest girl. I was the middle child.
Okay, you were the oldest girl. Okay. So you still had older siblings. However, there's some people, whatever positioning that, people within your family may just have an idea or outlook of you based on whatever positioning or whatever lifestyle you had, growing up. I mean, growing up is tough. Okay. Coming into your own is tough. You're going to make a lot of mistakes and you're going to learn from it. So if people are stuck in the vision of you when you were growing up or you were trying to figure out life. It is not for you to change that person. Just live your life, heal, grow. If they want to respect you and treat you as human, because I don't know how else to put it, that is their business. It's not for you to change anybody. If people want to respect you, they will respect you. If they don't want to respect you, they won't. And it's up to you to determine, is it worth having this person in my life or not? And that is okay. Again, no contact does not always have to be forever. If it is forever and it works for you, I mean, you know what you want for your life and you know what is best for your mental health. Again, going back to therapy, healing is not easy. I had opportunities to address certain very hurtful things that I went through in my life. So that fetal positioning thing happened as a personal thing. That it happened for me. I had to process that. After therapy, after talking about those big emotions, those big feelings and big experiences, right? I had a visceral reaction to it afterwards in processing it, and it helped me move past it. I no longer let it become a burden on my shoulder. So it's kind of like letting go of something that wasn't good for you, but it kind of like shaped you in a sense or helped you build up this shield, right? So it may not be everybody's experience. That was my experience because what I had to deal with was heavy. But therapy will have you address certain things if you're willing to heal. Address certain things that you're running away from, like Bianca said, because we have a way of shielding ourselves and lying to ourselves to survive, and it doesn't always work. So
the stories that we tell ourselves, about the world, about other people in order to survive are unreal. I mean, the stories that I've heard clients tell me about the interpretations that they had to give their family, the interpretations that they had to give of themselves, the lies that they have had to tell themselves in order to survive. I mean, we are amazing storytellers when we're not trying to be. And the experiences that we go through from a really young age, I mean, they shape everything about us. I'm sure that your experiences now in reflection, it makes perfect sense why you were struggling the way that you were. I mean, the people that you were surrounded by, the messages that they were trying to get you to believe, the things that you learned just from your own exploration and trying to navigate the world, the way that the world reacted to you, the reciprocal nature of that, all of these things, they really shape who we become and how we show up in the world and the stories that we have to tell ourselves to be able to survive. I mean, people, like I said earlier, people don't lie to themselves because they're trying to be deceitful intentionally. We lie to ourselves because we have to be able to get through the day. I had a client who really struggled in therapy, and she eventually quit like really abruptly because we were starting to get to the point where she actually had to acknowledge the challenges that happened in her life and her part in it and the stories that she was telling herself about what happened. And it was so bad for her. She couldn't take it. She wasn't ready to see the narratives that she unconsciously developed and the way that her behaviors and her emotions from her development and from her upbringing and from all of these things really impacted how she showed up in the world and the way the world responded back to her. Like when we think of the word karma or when we think of the law of attraction, there's actually a scientific backing behind it. It's called reciprocal determinism. It basically means your core beliefs, your rules, attitudes, and assumptions, the stories you tell yourself, the feelings you have, and then the actions that you have in response to all of that.
Okay.
You're acting in the world based on that. You're going to eventually and inevitably see things based on the way that you see all of those things. So me as somebody who cares very much about fitness and physical health, I'm always seeing that in the world because my brain is literally wired now to pay attention to things like that. Because I'm paying attention to it, it's what I'm noticing, and that's what I'm getting back. That's literally what the law of attraction is. You get what you put out. And so for this client, she was really having a hard time seeing that. It was breaking her paradigm. It was breaking her mind of like, oh my God, that's why this happened. And this is why I did what I did. And that's why they did that to me. I mean, some people, unfortunately, they're not ready to handle it. The parts of them that developed and the beliefs that they've developed, they're not ready to handle it. And unfortunately, more people don't get help than do. And it's why I am so passionate about this work. And it's one of the reasons why I started going on interviews again, because I am a firm believer that everybody needs to go to therapy. As someone who has been in therapy since I was 16, everybody needs therapy because none of us were taught this. Like, my parents never sat me down and said, this is what a belief is. This is what it means to be a person. This is what an emotion is. This is what healthy communication is. This is what emotion regulation and healthy communication and boundaries and healthy holistic living. This is what all of this is. I didn't learn that. I learned get good grades. It doesn't matter how, just get good grades. We're not going to really care if you're studying or not. Like, get good grades. That's all we care about. Make sure you look good for the family. Eventually marry an Arab man who makes us feel proud of you. And we're going to shield you from every truth of the reality of the world because we don't want you to see that. Good intentions, horrible outcome. Good intentions, horrible outcome. Most of us grew up with that. Our parents didn't teach us this stuff. And so that's exactly what therapy is meant to do. That's what I do with clients. It sounds like that's what happened for you when you went to therapy. That's what happened for me. It's why it was so brutal, but it's also the only reason I'm here doing what I get to do today, because I was willing to understand and recognize the stories and the history and why things happened the way that they did, and the part that I played in it, which is the hardest part of therapy. I mean, we all know all the wrongdoings everyone did to us in our lives, but when you got to look in the mirror and say, damn, I did that. I showed up that way. By my actions, led you to feel the way that you do and create a narrative about me. Damn, I wasn't ready to hear that.
Yeah.
But like, that's where the true growth lies. That's where the true healing lies. And the more willing you are to look at your part, not from a shaming perspective, not from a self-hatred perspective, but really looking at it as, I want my future to be so amazing. I want to love myself so much that I'm willing to see where I've messed up. That's where all transformation happens.
That mirror is something else. That mirror is needed. Is much needed, because it's the same way you look in the mirror and adjust your makeup. You look in the mirror and adjust your emotions. You look in the mirror and adjust the way you show up for yourself first, and then in the world. Because again, if you respect yourself and you see how, talking about the principle of karma and how energetically you attract things to yourself. If you're tired and you just want to make a change, that mirror is like, not to quote Michael Jackson or anything, but I mean, man in the mirror. So, I mean,
it's a good song.
Right.
It's a good song.
I know. So when it comes to clients who cannot stand the heat of that mirror and they abruptly stop therapy, what do you think happens? Is it a guilt, and do they try to apply what was learned? Or in your experience, do you see the same self-sabotaging, self-destructive behavior or relationship sabotaging behavior until they're just exhausted from the whole drama?
Some people never get to the point where they're ready to actually look. Unfortunately for this client, something severe is going to have to happen in their life for them to really be ready to see the truth. And it breaks my heart because I wish that wasn't true. But the more you run away from the truth, the worse your experience is going to be. And a lot of people can't handle it. Or they don't believe they can handle it. And so this client in particular, I mean, she's running away from the truth, even from herself. And I think that's why a lot of people do end up self-sabotaging, or they end up, running the cycles and the patterns that they do, is because they're trying to convince themselves of a narrative. They're trying to convince themselves of a story and of a belief that deep down they know isn't true, but they need it to be true. Because what does it mean about them if the alternative is actually true? I had that in my own life too. I mean, when my business partner came to me and said, "You are not ready for this," her and her partner, who is another mentor of mine, I set them up. They were both blown away at the fact that I didn't villainize her and that I didn't make a monster out of her the way that unfortunately this client did to me, because I was closer to the surface of my real truth, which was I knew it was true.
Yeah.
I knew it was true. I wasn't ready. I wasn't capable. I was as honest as I could be along the way, in that, like, I don't think I can do this. But I was pretending significantly. I mean, I try to listen to old episodes of our show and I can't do it. It's so hard because I was pretending so badly. And so many of us are doing that. We're trying so desperately hard to convince ourselves of this thing that we need to be true, because we don't know if we're going to be able to handle the real truth. The real truth for me was I wasn't good enough. I wasn't capable. I wasn't in the place in my external life and internal life where that I needed to be in order to be what the mission needed. And I knew it. And like I said earlier, I wanted my future more than I wanted the story that I was telling myself. And because I had done a lot of work on myself up to that point, I was willing to face it, but not everybody's there.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I think that's also really okay, because you need to start where you are. I mean, I have clients that I've been working with for years, and we're only now starting to get to the root of their trauma because they weren't ready to talk about it. They within themselves didn't feel safe enough to go there. But now they are, because we've touched on a lot of these other things, and they've built the self-belief and the self-worth and the self-efficacy, which was, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
It's going to be really hard, and I'm scared, and I'm not certain what this journey is going to do.
Yeah.
But I believe in me. I believe that I can eventually figure it out, and I have your help. So like, I know I'm going to be okay. It's going to suck, and I know I'm going to be okay.
I think that self-belief and trust is paramount, because if you know you've been lying to yourself for survival or whatever reason, it's kind of like, can I trust myself now to go through this process?
Right.
Yeah. So that is a really big thing. And unfortunately, what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing from you and your experience with this particular client, the projection of, the hurt was not a very healthy thing. And unfortunately, it leads to a vicious cycle of other people trapped in that toxic behavior. And, it's just kind of like living jaws of hearts, a trail of, destroyed people. And that is,
Yeah.
that's sad. I love this conversation, Bianca, and I've been looking forward to us connecting since our first meeting. For all of our listeners who traditionally may not understand the benefit of therapy, or it's a Western ideology as most traditional people think it is, especially when culture is very strong and they do recognize within themselves that they have been kind of like getting along to get along because, it's a cultural demand or requirement. And they really like to start their own healing journey for themselves. And what should that process look like for a person who maybe has never done this before?
Start really small. Something that I've been seeing, which has been so great for me, like even in the Middle East, I mean, this is starting to become a thing. Like media anchors and social media influencers and whatnot in the Middle East are starting to talk about these concepts of, value and self-belief and self-respect. With the growth and the increase in technology, I mean, it is becoming a global phenomenon. Mental health and holistic self-improvement and well-being and all of these things are really starting to expand globally. And I mean, it's going to take time, obviously. Like not everybody fully understands it and understands the necessity of it and understands these things and has the self-belief and the self-worth yet that they can do it. But we're slowly getting there. And the first thing that I would say, if you're not ready to talk to a therapist, if you're not ready to do one-on-one work, find media platforms like this or, like the podcast that we have, Evolve Ventures, that talk about these things. Just start getting a basic introduction to these concepts and to these theories and to these ideas and see how they fit for you. Find someone or a book or a channel or whatever that resonates for you and start small and then start seeing how it feels and start slowly over time trying some certain things. That's what I did when I wanted to become a speaker. I went to my mentor and I said, I am god awful at speaking. I can't communicate to save my life. How do I get better? And he said, record a video of yourself every single day. Don't send it anywhere. Don't do anything with it. Just record. And I said, okay. And I started doing that. And it was brutal, horrible. And then he's like, okay, now you're going to start sending them to me. And I'm like, yeah, I'm all set. Nope. No, thank you. I'm good. I eventually did it, but I was like, I don't want to send these to you. But I eventually did.
Yeah.
And then he's like, okay, now post them every single day on your Instagram story. And eventually I did. And now I've done over 400 podcast episodes and a few hundred speaking engagements and things like that. Podcast episodes like this. It's like, this is how you do it. It's slow, gradual growth and progress over time. People think that they're just going to dive into it because there are these really fake narratives on social media of these overnight millionaires. It's like, that doesn't exist. That doesn't exist. They either did something shady or they're lying. Unless there's like the 0.00001% that actually did do it and it was a fluke. It wasn't intentional. Anyone that you know that has something that you don't have, it's because they did something that you're not yet doing. And so when it comes to mental health and well-being and all of these different things, it's small little tweaks over time. That's what happened for me. I started therapy when I was, I think 18 was the first time I ever went. And I was in and out of it for a while. And then when I met my mentors at 24, I've been practicing every single day ever since. And I'm going to practice for the rest of my life. And that's how you start. Just start introducing yourself to the concepts and then try applying it and then apply it more and then expand and expand and expand. And then start working with somebody who can help you to understand it deeper and guide you better. That's what made the biggest change for me. It's having the right people around you and surrounding yourself with the types of people and the influences and the media and all of these things that you want to eventually become.
Absolutely. The right people around you is very important because you need support. You need a healthy support system, and that doesn't always equal family. So look outside your family for somebody that has an unbiased interest in you. I would put it that way. That is the best place to find mentorship. And so, Bianca, for listeners who absolutely love, because you left a lot with us and, you were so eloquent in talking about the healing process and your practice. If they wanted to reach out to you to work with Evolve or to just listen to everything that you do, all the wonderful things that you do, could you tell our listeners where to find you, whether it's your podcast or your business, your website, your social media handle?
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, one of the best places is reach out to me on Instagram or TikTok, Evolve with Bianca. And then the podcast and the business. So Evolve Ventures, we have an Instagram page, we have a website, we have a therapy program that we do, we have coaching services, we have a lot of free and paid things for everybody, no matter where you are on your journey. We've worked with people that are brand new, didn't even know what therapy was, to people who have been in it for 20, 30 years and want something a little bit more. So wherever you are on your journey, there's a place for you here. And we've worked with everybody under the sun. So on social media, Evolve with Bianca, or our website, evolveventurestech.com. Those are two really good places to start.
Beautiful. Thank you. Everybody, we will make all of that available in the show notes. So if you missed anything, it's okay. You just click in and you get directly to the link. We will include everything Bianca in the show notes so that you can read up about her some more and also get to know her. She's a very awesome person. And I'm very grateful that our path did cross, Bianca, because we're silly, but you do leave a lot of nice, you talk a lot of good stuff. So I usually ask my guests before they take their leave to leave our listeners with a few golden nuggets that they can utilize on their journey, whether it's personal development, emotional development, or just healing.
Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me on here. This is a really great episode, and I really loved the conversation. And thank you for everything that you're doing. I know so many people are being really positively impacted by you having the courage and the humility to show up and do this. So thank you deeply. The thing that I would say to anyone listening is our beliefs impact every aspect of our life. We have beliefs we don't even know we have. We have assumptions and rules and expectations and feelings that we have no idea how they're shaping us. And we are all so much more capable than we believe. And I sincerely believe that the path towards every single one of us having an amazing, magnificent life, because I really do know in my gut that it's possible because I've seen it. It's through doing this work. And yeah, it is scary and it is hard and it's going to be so worth it. And I can only say that because I've done it. I know what it's like being deeply, deeply insecure, praying to whatever God you believe in that nobody ever finds out the truth, to now doing the work that I get to do, helping people, radically change their lives. So if I could do it, you absolutely can too. It is possible.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. It is possible. You're not alone. You're not alone. Don't believe those voices. You're not alone. There's a community of people willing to support you because those voices can be loud. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I got a lot out of this conversation. I, pray you did the same as well. Again, Bianca, I am so grateful you made time for us to chat. And yeah, I'm really thankful you came here. So
Me too.
Thank you. All right. Everybody take care of yourselves. And yes, check out the episode. Let us know what you think. If you know somebody who's struggling and has either reached out to you, because again, you cannot push this on anybody. Somebody has to be willing to go on a healing journey. If you know somebody that, could use this, please send it to them and have them start. And be a support when you need to. All right. Not to your detriment,
Boundaries.
Well, solid boundaries. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Unshelling Medicine podcast. If you want to stay up to date with the latest episodes, make sure to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to leave us a review. Follow us on social media at Altruistic Scribe on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. We share additional tips, updates, and health-related content that you won't want to miss. Have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes? Reach out to us at altruisticscribeco.com. We're always eager to hear from our listeners and tackle the health topics that matter most to you. Until next time, stay healthy and take care.